Hi, everyone. As Katerina mentioned, my name is Vaidehi Joshi. I'm so stoked to see so many people here. It's really rad. Um, I'm going to ask all of our amazing panelists to introduce themselves. But before that, I want to get a sense of who is in the room here tonight. So very quickly, could you please raise your hands if you have less than 5 years of coding or engineering experience? Okay. 5 to 10 years? 10 to 15 years? 15 plus years. Okay, awesome. Cool. That's great. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about all of you, I think it's a good time for us to get to know each other. So what I'd love is if each of our panelists could just quickly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your career and what you do now.
Sure. My name's Sue Hayes. I'm with Nike. I'm a senior director in the Nike Digital Engineering Organization. I started my career many years ago in Denver at a company called US West Technology, which was a form of the old phone company. And started as a programmer and worked my way up through the engineering ranks and eventually got into management. And then about 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to come to Portland and work for Nike. I'm a big runner, so it was a great opportunity for me to take a discipline that I love to do as a profession and marry it with something that I love to do as a person. And so I've been at Nike in various areas across the different technology organizations, and I've been in the digital engineering organization for about 6 years.
I'm Meena Arunachalam, and I'm part of Software Services Group at Intel. So I'm one of those people who joined Intel as a recent college graduate right out of graduate school and never looked back, right? So it's pretty amazing because when I joined, the team I was hired into was the first, some of the early COTS that would date me, what that means, commercial off-the-shelf technology, which is basically all the server parts that anybody could put together and build their own server, right? At that point, Intel had 2% of the server market. So my first job was go off and build this performance model and run all sorts of online transaction processing workloads, data mining workloads. Again, I might date myself by saying all those terms, but these are these database, type of workloads. Come and tell us what we need to do in the hardware, right? Sort of come and picture. And my background is computer architecture and software. So then today, Intel owns 98% of the server market, and we are still growing. And so over the course of time, I moved from server to client, systems, and then graphics, and then eventually to high-performance computing, which now has morphed a big part into artificial intelligence, deep learning, and machine learning. So my job is to build the hardware that all the software, the women who code, the men who code, everybody who codes, and run exciting, our babies who code, right? So come up with really good hardware, right? Excellent hardware. So it makes your job very easy and, fun as well.
I'm April Leonard. I'm an engineering manager here at New Relic. And I am a music major turned computer science major who in 2003 started working at local companies. I started out in QA for a couple years and then switched to development. And I ended up coming to New Relic about a year ago as an individual contributor and then turned to an engineering manager 2 months ago. Like the baby of the group.
Well, I'm Dana Lawson. I'm the VP of Engineering at Envision. Y'all just heard about Envision, but I've been in this field almost 20 years. I know I look so young. That's what coding does. It keeps you young. So when you want to get out, remember the elixir of youth. is being smart, hungry, and humble, and being curious. I've held a lot of roles in technology, and I still haven't found the one that I love the most because I love them all, and I keep getting myself in trouble by switching roles. But I think it makes you a well-rounded person when you really look at the world and look how you can build something that can enable people to do amazing things. So, I was at New Relic once a lifetime ago. It's like a reunion for me, all. I get to see all my friends. And now I'm just on to bigger and more smaller things.
Rad. Okay, so obviously all of you are leaders in your respective companies, on your teams, and in our industry. So what I'm curious to know is, how did you end up there? So I guess what I mean is, was it like you started off and you knew, okay, this is what I want to achieve. I'm going to make like goals and set daily tasks and like get there. Or did you just like fall into it organically? Or did somebody else help you get into the role that you're in now? How did you guys like do so amazingly well? Whoever wants to take that.
Maybe I don't fall in the category of amazingly well, but
I disagree. Every single one of you is. I had dinner with all of you. I know.
I can definitely say I didn't start out thinking I would be in leadership or management at all. I loved being a developer and really thought that's what I would do forever, I guess. But I also really had a passion for teaching and found that was a way for me to help other people through what I think at some time I did well, which was be a developer. And so that kind of led me into being a manager and a leader. And I think I actually embrace the leadership part of it more than maybe the management part of it, because I really do think of leadership as a way of being and helping other people and trying to bring people along. And I probably never really intended to also be a leader in terms of bringing women into the field, but it's been actually quite rewarding to have people come along in this industry, and it's great to see. I mean, it's great to look out across this room and see so many women in the field, really.
I can go. Okay. So in my case, I joined, like I said, the Server Architecture Lab, which was pretty much sort of filled with researchers and PhDs and people who have written books, really very smart people. And I'm here coming as a recent college graduate and sort of looking up to all of these people. And some of these are principal engineers. So I'm at Intel, you have really two clear paths. And I think many of the companies probably do, and startups might as well. But the two paths is, one is a technical leadership pipeline. The other one is the management leadership pipeline, right? So you can, as early as an early career, you can decide, I want to go into the TLP or MLP, right? So I was pretty much set, because I was very technical, I was an individual contributor. I really wanted to go into the technical pipeline. But it was pretty daunting because I look around, I don't see any women. Forget about a PE or a senior PE, not even women on calls I'm on. After a while, you get used to it. You're like, hey, it's all right, it's not a big deal. That's the way it is. And maybe I have to be the one to be the trailblazer, right? And you do see women who are really smart, and some of them in the leaky pipeline leave, right, halfway through. But I come from an all three girls family, and my mom was a math professor, and she had said, you have to do math, you have to do science. Thankfully, we got it, so we enjoyed it and did it. So sort of, it was a natural progression as you start solving problems and you start becoming good at it. Even with all the little, help that you get, you form your own mentoring circle, or you have, people look out for you. Once they see you have a lot of promise, although you're a minority or, you're not too many of you around, but you your work speaks for you, right? Your technical depth in your expertise, and, you gather all the courage and confidence, and you speak up, and, you pull yourself together and start working. And the work was the most exciting part. It wasn't that I'm a woman or, it was more what you learned and what you contributed, right? So as a result of that, so this is a natural progression. So you have sort of three vectors on which you get evaluated. One is your technical depth and expertise and leadership. What does that mean? It means that you have a track record. So you cannot become overnight a technical leader, right? So right from day one, you sort of build patents, papers, you influence products, you come up with, really solid technical ideas. And then you also have something called a strategic influence or a business impact. At the end of the day, the company has to make money. Are you bringing in revenue streams? Are you adding, value to the products that the company is putting out? And the third part, which is the role modeling and mentoring, right? Are you bringing along people? Are you developing others along with you? Are you growing your organization? So on all of those three vectors, it's an organical, natural process. You sort of build on it, and then that's how I got where I got. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to take us back to music land. I went to school because I was like, I'm going to teach music in high school. Like that's what I'm going to do. And then I got there, and I'm going to just say it was terrible for a number of reasons. We won't go into that. And so I was like, oh, I'll be a math major because I'm good at math, and that I have to get through this because I can't afford this for more than 4 years. And then I started doing math, and I was like, how am I going to apply this? And I've always kind of been one of those people that, like, I'm going to be real honest with you, just does what somebody tells me I can't do. And so I'm like, computer science. Yep, one of like three women in this school that I ended up at. In it's 100 people, like just kind of like this, but like all looking at me, and I was, there was two other women in the entire room when I did this program in Wales, and it was just really eye-opening. I made a lot of good relationships. I had a lot of support, but I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I did it. And then I got back to Portland, and it was 10% unemployment. It was after the bust. And well, here I took this job doing QA, and I was really deconstructing things. And it was amazing, but I realized at one point that I actually like constructing things more. So once I made that realization, I was like, okay, but that was really helpful because we kind of have this full stack developer. A lot of times on the teams that I'm on, you own the code at the end of the day. So you have to make sure that like it's solid. So the skills that I learned back then, I've really been able to apply. So I guess that's one thing I've learned, that like over time, everything that you do, you're going to be able to apply along the way, and it's part of your unique skill set. So fast forward, I end up doing Java, middleware, and I think, okay, I'm going to make a jump. I'm just going to go do something that I don't know about. So I have this opportunity at New Relic. I'm going to learn Ruby. I'm going to learn Kotlin. I'm going to learn JavaScript. And so I really got my breadth, and that was really amazing. And then I had this opportunity to be an engineering manager, and I've generally tended towards being more in a leadership role on my teams. I love team building. I love, just getting the team to a place where we're building really cool things. And I'm interested in process. I'm interested in efficiency. And so I had this opportunity, and, I had that pull, right, of like, I really like my technical side. You kind of like tell me that I can't be an architect. I'm going to be an architect, right? But then at the same time, I have this passion of, I enjoy team building. I enjoy supporting people in doing their best work. And so in this case, I thought, okay, I have this opportunity, but then I also looked around, and at New Relic, I have these models. I have these amazing mentors of engineering managers, and I have support. People we're really passionate about supporting each other at every level. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it on, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's literally a career change, right? You don't think about that I didn't go to school for business. I didn't go to school for leadership and mentoring, but so I have these areas that I need to expand on. But yeah, here I am today.
You are.
Here I am.
Here you are.
With support. It's great.
Oh man. So, how many of y'all have CS degrees? How many of you don't? I just want to say that obviously I'm a VP and I don't have a CS degree. So I'm going to start there. I never thought I was going to be in technology. I thought I was going to be an artist. I wanted to be, Georgia O'Keeffe. If you don't know who that is, you should look her up. And I had this dream. I was like, I'm just going to paint beautiful scenes in the desert and have a gallery. And you know what? Being an artist is hard, like healthcare. And I was like, man, how can I apply the stuff that I love? Because I always loved, in school, my parents said, man, you're going to school to draw. And I was like, and paint? Don't forget the painting part. But in all seriousness, I picked up graphic arts classes. I loved it. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I just had a knack for it because I was a science nerd and a math nerd. Still am. So when they say right brain, left brain, I'm all brains. And so, man, I'm such a weird person. I'm going to try to fast forward. So art wasn't working out because you can't make money unless you're good. I wasn't that good. So I joined the Army on a whim.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm pretty drastic. I'm a painter. I'm going to paint. And I'm like, yes, sir. Can you see me as a soldier? I was a fucking good soldier. But I joined the military, and I thought, they make you take this test called the ASVAB. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take this test. And like I said, I'm a nerd. I love math. I scored really well. People were surprised. You're like, wow, you're really good at this. And they had this new field back then called Information Systems Operator Analysis. And I was like, sweet, air conditioning. I was like, I'm going to take this job with computers and I'll never have to go outside. That was my motivation, not even playing. But fast forward, I went through a really intense training, and this was back in the 90s, and they taught you a little bit of everything. Java was just coming out. This concept of the internet was just really blooming. Everybody was, playing Oregon Trail. And I was like, I'm going to build Oregon Trail. I'm going to make that person vomiting from dysteria. That's me. So fast forward, I get into this and I'm in the military, but I wasn't really in the military because it was such a specialized field. So they put me in a network operations center, and I sat in this little basement for a few years, and I was like, sorry, I can't go to PT programming. They didn't know what to do with me. They're like, we don't know what to do with you, Lawson. And I was like, yeah, you don't. And so I got out of the military, and at this time they were switching over to contractors, and I actually had my same desk when I got out. So I showed up the next day in normal clothes. I'm like, I'm back. Plus a $30,000 increase. And I was like, where's the money? Where's the money? But it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. I was in SaaS, software as a service before there was the SIPRNet, which is the Army Secure, and the NIPRNet, which is you have to have a secret clearance, but anybody's getting those these days. So I just fell into it, and I loved it. And being the sysadmin that I was back then, I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to code because I bet I could automate all of my job. Once again, air conditioning, you see the progression inside, scripting, never even have to be at my desk. So I was pretty good at trying to figure out how I could solve harder problems. And then naturally, I just took on a lot of challenges, and I started gravitating towards people. I realized I was not a very good developer. Go figure, right? I'm an okay developer. I'm not a great developer. Okay, maybe I'm pretty good, but not really. And how I got into this position now was I paid a lot of people off. There's a few of them here. No, but in all actuality, I worked my ass off. I just was hungry. I always say there's 3 traits to look for, and it doesn't matter your academic background. You just be smart, hungry, and humble. And I think those 3 traits will take you far in life, because being curious is what technology is about. If you ask me today, would I be sitting here with all these wonderful people and all these women in technology, I would be like, nope, not happening. Because there was we talked about this at lunch, there was a lull of women in technology after the bust. I mean, it was radio silence. People were getting out. All the people that I started off when back in the 90s, they're all doing project management. No knock to project management. I'm glad you're there. I love it. But nobody was staying in technology, and I'm one of the lone rangers that still stuck it out. And I continue to just help enable people to do their best, because being a leader in engineering is understanding what you're trying to do, and understanding the people that you have to do it, right? Because we're all special. We all have these skills, and I think it's a very special thing when we have all these varied backgrounds, because when you're building a product, and that's what you do in software engineering at the end of the day, having a diverse set of people is going to make a robust worldwide product. And so having you people come and share your point of view, it's really going to change software. And that's why I continue to look at positions like New Relic and like Envision, because we're enabling a change in engineering and how people approach software and what you do. And so that's what motivates me. But I mean, I could go on and on about my weird path to where I am, but you can ask me later. We're all on LinkedIn now. Thank you for all of those.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue, because now that we know kind of how you got to where you are now, all of you you do different things in all of your roles. You're at different companies. Your titles are slightly different. I assume your responsibilities are very different. So what does your day-to-day look like? What does it mean to do your job? Don't feel like you have to go in line either. We can popcorn it too. Switch it up.
Is my boss here? I've only been doing this for 2 months. I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I'm just kidding. I'll start. So yeah, I think like generally speaking, my output is the output of my teams. So what I was also told is that I have very high performing teams and just not to F it up. Am I supposed to say that? I think I'm going to be recorded, but like don't mess them up. So, I mean, that's kind of like I think in general, my day today is really making sure that my teams are successful, that they have what they need. So, so my job is honestly a lot of meetings, a lot of communication. I'm communicating up, I'm communicating down, and I'm making sure that we have alignment in the organization. Are my groups and what they're producing, is that really going towards the goals of the organization? Are we in line? Are we going the right direction? And then also just to make sure that the individuals and the team are getting what they need.
I can go next. So I'm probably slightly different from the rest of the folks here. I'm a principal engineer, so it's an individual contributor role. And then from here, you become a senior principal engineer and a fellow. Fellow is the equivalent of a VP. So all technical, right? So you're supposed to fundamentally make the company turn right or left, make fundamental technical contributions. And that's how you're measured, right? But at the same time, I'm in a lot of meetings. On a given day, I just learned from April some tips and tricks how to avoid this, right? So,
you can talk to me after too. I'm available for those kinds of things.
So the point is, at the end of the day, yes, you do want to do a lot of hands-on work. I still do, because I have to. Otherwise, I am not going to be credible, right? Whatever I recommend or do. But I also have an incredible team of people, very smart engineers, working. They may not be reporting directly to me, but I'm supposed to set the direction for the group as such, what problems we should be going after, how do we solve. And essentially, my job is a very fun job without having to do all the managerial stuff. I can get all their bandwidth and time, which is actually, don't tell anybody. I get to do all that. And that's what PEs are supposed to do. PEs, senior PEs and fellows are supposed to really come up with fun problems, solutions for problems, and completely, question everything, right? Like, don't be a yes person. Always come up with better ways to do things, influence. At the end of the day, are you fundamentally changing and contributing to the bottom line, right, of the company? It's not just you're working in a silo and coming up with cool ideas. You also have to go and talk to people, business units, and fight for your, ideas and make it happen. That's what I do.
So being a VP, it's all champagne and jet rides. So sign yourself up for that. My day-to-day is laying down the strategic vision. Setting the development path for engineers. That's my passion. It's to grow your careers. It's to have you feel value in what you do. It's to help you fill the gaps on the skills that you don't have and help me make a badass product. So it's a combination of both. It's a lot of, I don't know if y'all know the term horse trading. People think when they get into management, it's like, I am the queen of my queendom and everybody shall do what my bidding is. It's not like that at all. Actually, it's a lot of negotiating and conversing and ensuring and checking in with your people and making sure you're doing the right thing. I come back to that. Having groupthink it can be somewhat poisonous, especially when you're building a product for the world. And so I really try to check in and say, this is what we're trying to do. This is how we should get there. What do you think? You're the experts, right? Tell me, are we going on the right course? Are we going on the right path? And how can I move those roadblocks? And how can I ensure that, in the same vein, I have some of what they call the unsexy part of the job, which is, counting beans, spending money. But at the end of the day, really being a vice president in engineering is about building that engineering culture, establishing that engineering brand, and hopefully, sharing, at least for me, my philosophy is, we have a short amount of time on this planet together. So my hope is that when you're sharing that with me and my company, that we're satisfied at least as much as we can be on that journey together, so that we can do something amazing. You hear that term, disrupt? That's what I'm about, disrupting everything.
Yeah, so I would say I do spend a good part of my day in meetings, but I do have to kind of reframe that all the time and ask myself, what are the meetings for? So for me, anything about being a programmer was always, what problems are we trying to solve? So that's kind of how I approach kind of anything that I'm doing, is what problem are we trying to solve? And then setting strategy and making sure that what we're developing and what I'm setting my teams up to develop is helping Nike move forward. So my particular organization is platform engineering, so it's kind of not the sexy stuff of Nike Digital, but it's all the stuff that needs to be in place so we can do those sexy things a lot faster. So a lot of what I do is try to think about how we're going to get ahead so that the platforms are ready for the fun stuff that people are building.
Okay, follow-up question to that. How much of your time do you actually spend coding, if any?
Today?
Sounded like there are a lot of meetings. So.
No coding for me, not for money anyway.
So in my case, like I said, I am supposed to make the hardware for the software. So I spend a lot of time studying the software, right? It's funny, right? We are a hardware company, but we do so much software. I was explaining, I think the other day, all the way from the BIOS to the firmware, to the compilers, to the libraries, to the OS, to the applications, the whole stack, right?
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that the entire stack runs best on our silicon. If it's smart and it's connected, it's best on Intel. So that's what we do. That's what I do. So I do spend a lot of time on software, understanding the workloads. What do they need, right? How do I optimize them to get the best? Don't leave any performance on the table. Make them power efficient, right? That's what I do. That's my job. I would like to do 100% of the time on that and no meetings, but that's not going to happen if you're a technical leader, because that's your responsibility to grow your organization as well.
I had a team member ask me to sidekick something the other day, and I was like, yes! Yes! But sadly, I thought I told myself, like, I will commit something every day, and I have not done that. However, I kind of like to give myself, I'm a native Portlander, and I know this pattern of, like, I give myself the summer off, and then when it comes back to the fall time and it gets all rainy, then I, like, kind of cuddle up with some tea and do some coding. So I think I'll probably have to do it really through kind of side projects and my own stuff. But I think that's life as a manager for 2 teams.
I code a lot of spreadsheets. I like to call it spreadsheet ops. I'm bringing macros back. No, I mean, I mainly do it just for fun now. I don't get the opportunity. I'm more focused right now on architecture and long-term growth. So like hands to keyboard, it's more like, I like to think of myself like a conductor, right? I have an orchestra of amazing, like, first seat, like, violinists and, like, badasses. And so they're much better at me, so I get to actually, work through them. And that's really how I do it these days, by helping, like, be the tiebreaker in a sense. And but I do it for my own fun. Like, I'll spike something. I'll be like, look at this awesome project app I made. They're like, look at this spreadsheet I turned into code. And they're like, that's awesome. So I get to nerd out that way, but actually getting to do product development, not so much. I dream of it. Does that count? Like, some days I'm just like, squashing bugs ain't that bad. It's true. So don't hate the next time they're like, can you go do these bugs? You'd be like, no, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I feel like spreadsheet ops is like, if that's not on a shirt or bumper sticker,
Should I make a
it should
shirt?
be.
I'm a master of spreadsheet ops. You want to see some of my pivot tables? Blow your mind.
So I have a question for Mina and Sue. Mina, you've been at Intel for 18 years, and Sue, you've been at Nike for 20. So when I don't know this from personal experience, but I imagine when you're with an organization for that long, you see how it grows and changes. And you probably, now that both of you are leaders, have had leaders at both of these organizations that you've watched. So my question for the two of you is, what leadership, what actions of a leader have you seen work really well, and what do you think is missing in other organizations? And maybe like what have you adopted from other leaders that you think works well, and what do you think doesn't work as well, based on your experience at these organizations that are so established and obviously have grown a lot in the past 20 years?
I'll start. So yeah, Nike's grown a lot in the 20 years that I've been there. And I think the thing at Nike that I've seen a lot and I think works, and this is, I think whether you're in tech or not tech, but definitely in the tech areas that I've been in, is people who are really passionate about what they do. And so I think it's easier for sure to be a leader if you really love what you're doing. And I've seen that across the board, and then engaging with the people who are on your team. So whether that's networking or just knowing the people who work for you or work with you, I think just having those personal connections and relationships, I think, help you through whether you want to grow up in the organization you're currently in or into other organizations. I think part of the thing I've liked about working for a large organization like Nike is that there are lots of opportunities. But the way to get those opportunities is to be networked with people and to really learn about what other people are doing and really take the time, I guess, to understand what other people are doing. And I've often said, walking a mile in other people's shoes. So it's easy sometimes to sit and go, I could do that. Until you actually do it, maybe you'll find out how much harder it really is. But yeah, that I think I would say if I were going to pick one thing, it's like really embracing the people that you work with and for and around as a way to enhance your own careers.
So in my case, again, Intel is a huge company, and we cut across so many different segments, all the way from handhelds to IoT devices to client to the back end, the server, the data center, and everything in between. And then we make all the ingredient technologies like you have FPGAs, you have your networking, and you have your memory, you have everything, right? So pretty much it's a huge company, and it really gives you a sense of awe, right? When you look at how a company that just started to make, microprocessors has evolved into this big company, and more importantly, pretty much anything you do will impact billions of people, right? So I came up with a scheme in a processor called Ivy Bridge. I don't know if you know what it is. So it was about dynamic hardware prefetching, right? For example, so that's something I worked in, and that's a processor technology that can pretty much billions of people in the world that buy, an Intel CPU are actually using it. Maybe it is to solve, or come up with a cure for cancer or precision medicine, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, and completely change people's lives. So that's something that's pretty inspiring. So what is it that Intel, really does? It's a very sort of results-oriented company. So it doesn't matter where the idea is coming from, whether it's a junior person or a senior person, anybody can question status quo. And I love managers that sort of encourage that because that is what sort of brings fresh new ideas, right? And keeps us always on our toes. We are like a startup. Okay, but in a big company. So you need to be a sort of very hungry and, always receptive to improve yourself. The other thing about networking that Sue mentioned, it's a huge company, and I'm in the software side, right? So you do need to go influence the hardware and the platform and the, architecture, right? So you need to go engage with a lot of the other parts of the company. And so networking is important. Just one piece of advice, what I would call is build yourself a board of directors, right? And those board of directors are people that are all in your area or you want to be or you want to influence. And you have regular one-on-ones with them, have a pulse on what's going on in the different parts of the company and with your career questions, whatever, right? Whatever it is that you want to talk about, because those are your sponsors, your advocates, or talking when you're not in the room, or talking about opportunities that you're completely not aware of. So those are the sort of things. And the other thing about organization, a good manager is one who lets you fail, but quickly learn from your failures and come up. Because if you're always succeeding, you're not really learning, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's good that you're succeeding, but you're sort of going with the flow. Sometimes you want to try new things, new ideas. You should be allowed to fail, but of course, learn from your failures and recover quickly.
Yeah, totally. Good advice. So my next question is for April and Dana. Both of you obviously are juggling a lot because you're taking care of your own teams. Like what your job depends on is a lot of how your teams perform. So how do you make sure that the people on your teams are successful, and how do you make sure that you get your daily or weekly tasks done? How do you achieve those goals while also simultaneously being responsible for the goals of so many other people?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me is, and I think just being in software for so long, like you kind of get the whole, like, what are my requirements and how, like the whole software life cycle. And so I kind of like apply that to like my daily life, which seems now sad. But it really does, like, it's a pattern that kind of seems to come up over and over again. So I really just have to prioritize, what are the most important things at the beginning of the week? What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get this done? So I have like my own kind of Trello board that I just prioritize, and things are going to drop off. And I feel like software, especially now, there's so many areas. It's so broad. There's so many things you can do. There's so many things you get excited about. But it's like, pick one and then just do it. You know what I mean? Make yourself do it and tell people what you think you're going to be doing. So like, I just tell people like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. And then that helps me actually do it, because like now I have somebody that I'm accountable to, because they may come back and ask me, hey, are you still doing that thing, or did you do it? So if I ever come up to you and I'm like, hey, guess what I'm doing right now? Yeah, I'm learning about machine learning. And they're like, really? What do you know about it? Nothing yet. Right? So that's one of my strategies.
Repeat the question.
I know. Kind of.
How do you juggle so many things? The two big ones being like, you have to be successful at your own role, but then you're responsible for all of these other people's success too.
So my role really, the success for me is the success of my teams. It's not me. I mean, I'm like I said, there's this fantasy of the queen of the queendom, but it doesn't really exist. I'm not here to do that. It's here to work myself out of a job. I know that's when I'm successful, when the people around me are coming up in the ranks and they're being able to do the things that they're passionate and they love, and I'm able to help enable them. We follow a model called Leader, and I really believe in it. You won't hear me use the word empower. I'm not giving power to anybody. Y'all are just as able-bodied to do anything I'm here to enable you. I'm here to remove roadblocks. I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn. I'm here to take in the inputs and help you organize your thoughts so that we can all be better as a collective. And so that's really what success is for me, is really, having your success, because at the end of the day, as a leader, it's not me, it's those are around me. And, hopefully one day I work for all of y'all. And I truly believe that. You hear people say that. You're like, oh, one day I'm going to work for you. No, I really want to. I'm tired of this. I want somebody to tell me what to do. But no, I don't tell people what to do. I work with them, and we work pretty darn collaboratively. And I think as long as you set the stage to really enable people to be their best, trust them. And their successes are your successes, especially at where I'm at in this phase. It's easy for people to be like, yeah, that was my idea and I did it. I'm going to call bullshit on that. You usually have 20, 30 people behind you that are helping you really take those ideas and turn them into concrete things that, make money.
Awesome. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we have like 13 minutes left. And there's one thing I do want to talk about because there's very few chances that you have like 4 rad, amazing women at your disposal. So I'm going to seize the opportunity. So the National Center for Women in IT estimates that 1.4 million jobs will be open in the field of computer science by the year 2020. Today, only 26% of computing jobs are held by women. So my question for all of you is, having been in this field for as long as you have been, and now being in positions of leadership, how have you seen the field change, and where do you think it will be in 5 to 10 years, especially given your experiences like seeing more women enter the field and joining your teams that you're responsible for?
Can I start this off?
Yeah. Sure.
I first want to say thank you to all the millennials. No, I'm like totally 100% genuine and serious in that. Thank you for not taking any shit. People like to complain, but there's radicals in every era. If you look, there were the hippies, there were the beats, there were the new waves. And I want to say thank you to millennials because I think that the millennials are bringing something that a lot of people have been silent for a long time of saying, like, I don't know if I can speak up. And somebody asked me a question earlier. They said, what's the one piece of advice you can give somebody? And I did not invent this advice. So you can thank whoever told me it, is don't be driven by fear, right? Don't be driven by fear. The fear that you are not going to support your family, the fear that you're not going to have a job, the fear that you're not going to be taken serious, the fear that all that imposter syndrome stuff that you deal with on every day. Because you know what? You are good enough. You are smart enough, and you can drive your vision. And coming back to it, I think that there's a lot of negativity about millennials this day and age. I happen to not be one, even though I look like one. But I think that it's time for radical change, and I think that we can do it with tact and with good feels, because we have to force change. I have a saying, you catch more flies with honey, right? There's going to be people that say crappy stuff to you, but you have to sit and listen and say, where are you coming from? And I don't like that. And so the question of where do I think this field will? I believe that, me, Sue, and Mina talked about this earlier. There was a lull in the 2000s where women just went out of tech because of the housing bust and the boom, and people were like, oh my gosh, I have kids, I have family, I have responsibilities. But we're coming back, and my advice there is don't be afraid. Don't choose your destiny based off fear. Like, I've quit jobs, I've gotten jobs, I've done real stupid things, and look at me here today. Like, if I can sit up here and have the honor to get to talk to you, which every day I'm blessed and I'm privileged that I get this opportunity, then I implore you to don't let it drive you into your decisions. Be bold and do what you want. And I think as long as women start seeing women like us and women like you out there not being driven by fear, we're going to overtake that 26%. I bet it's going to be more in the 70, 80, and 90. I hope. No, I seriously hope, but I think that we're bringing a new way of thinking, and we're bringing a different perspective, because a lot of us have been there, and I think there was Hidden Figures was a good representation of that. I know that movie just came out, but those women were there all along. It's just they didn't know how to advocate for themselves. You should promote for yourself. A lot of women don't do self-promotion, and that's what holds you back. You're your number one advocate, and nobody's going to do it for you, especially not right now. But thanks to those damn millennials that they're blazing the trail for us. So I think we're going to see a shift in the tide. I can tell you that in the last 4 years, I've prominently seen it, and I like where it's going. But I want to remind y'all, like, don't forget that people are human, and that sometimes they don't come from the best place, but it's our job to tell them that they aren't, and to recenter them. And if they're jerks, they're jerks. Don't hang out with them. But if they're not, maybe you'll change their mind.
I think there's that gif of like the woman pulling up the woman that's pulling up the woman that's pulling up the woman. Like, I think that's happening, and so, like, we're here to pull you up. And I think that I agree totally. Advocating for yourself, that's just huge. And then to me, like, I may be getting off the question a little bit, but like finding a mentor, finding somebody that you want to model, that you want to be, because, you know, if you recognize where you want to go, then you will get there. Like, you will get there, but you just, you know where you're going. And then, and where I think I see the industry going is I see like people like, or organizations like New Relic opening 3 scholarships. Like, they care and they want women, and there are men in the crowd. Thank you, men, for coming to like not let us be part of the echo chamber, you know, and to help. There's also a book called What Works for Women at Work, and it has some amazing insights about like how to disrupt, negative behaviors. And so I think that there's just a lot more information. There's a lot of desire to increase diversity, and I think that I see that happening.
So I completely agree. Intel and a lot of companies, startup companies, established companies, see the benefit if 50% of your population is women, and you need to be designing products for that population. So if you don't have those women in your workforce, how are you going to make money? It's actually a business decision. It's almost like, make money. In order to make money, you need to have diversity of thought, diversity of innovation, diversity in every possible way to actually build better products, right, for your community. That said, I think there is a sort of an awakening. Maybe millennials are to be, blamed for that, or but there is, which I'm very glad that they don't want to put up with nonsense. Not only that, they are very clear about what they want and what they see is right. And I want more of such women, more strong, courageous, confident women come up. And technical, space, I think in 5 to 10 years, you said, or 5 to 6 years. I think I honestly want to see more women, and like us, and even higher up leaders want to help women and bring everybody in. So don't have any inhibitions. Oh, I'm the only one here. Who cares? It's an excellent place, and you are actually blazing the trail for more women to come. So when you open the door and get in, you're bringing and making it possible for others. Like they say, like, right? So when you come in, younger girls that are in high school or middle school, oh, this is a possibility. This is something that I can do growing up. So you change the dialogue, you change, things for the upcoming generation. So we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders as women, and we can really make a positive change.
I'd probably echo similar themes. So I would say definitely advocate for yourself. I would also say advocate for each other, because I would say I think that's actually been one of the bigger problems over the last few years is everybody's trying to get ahead, and they're actually squashing other people in the process. It's like we can help each other all get ahead. So that would be I think that needs to happen for the future of women in development. And then I would say, when I started my career, people worked for a company. Everything you did was within the company you worked for. But organizations like this, and not just saying it because we're here, but I think networking across companies is really important to understand what other people are doing in the industry, as well as creating that broader network of people who know you and what you do. And as people talk, as Meena mentioned, people talk in rooms when you're not there, right? And you want them talking about you in a good way. So, knowing people and knowing what they're doing at other companies and being able to advocate for other people's work is, I think, a big path forward for all people, but for women in particular. I think we don't do enough self-promotion or promotion of each other's good work.
Yeah, to echo what all of you said about advocating, I think I was the person who asked you for the best piece of advice on Thursday night. You talked about advocating, and I took her advice seriously. I went home and I wrote down 3 things that I know I kick ass at, technically, and then I tweeted it, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad. And I think Women Who Code retweeted it, but you should actually, it's a really good homework assignment. Like, write down 3 things that you're really good at, and then when you feel like imposter syndrome, when you start to doubt yourself, when someone else starts to doubt you, Or when you like need something to advocate for yourself, you can come back to your like, kick-ass list and you have it there and you're good at it. So word to the wise.
And then
Try
write
it.
down 3 things about other people that
Yes.
do well.
Yes.
They do well, yeah.
Part 2. I should do that. Okay, so we have just a few minutes left, and I wanted to end with the exact same question that I asked you on Thursday night. What was the best piece of advice you were given, and what did you learn, or like what advice do you wish you had been given in the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I think I'd say the best advice I've been given is to just do it.
Oh man, that was awesome.
Not necessarily in the Nike way, but definitely in the Nike way. But truly grab opportunities as they come to you, and not be. Several people have said it. Not be afraid. Don't be afraid that you're not good enough or don't know enough, because you'll learn it.
Yeah.
So I think. What was the second half of the question?
What was the best advice, and what advice do you wish you had been given, like in the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I think, and so similarly, I would say, the advice I wish I would have been given would be to be way more bold about what you know and what you want. And sometimes you might not know it, but you probably know something. You know things you like to do. So you don't. And I don't like to frame that in like, I want to be the VP or I want to be some place on an org chart, but rather what is it that you want to do that really deep down is your passion, and then talk to people about that and make it happen. So I think just being more bold and brave about what you've been trained to do.
So I think I'm going to sort of go along those lines. I mean, I can't beat your just do it. So, okay, the best piece of advice that actually lots of pieces of advice, but among the best of the best that I thought that somebody gave me was really to have a vision of where you're going, but also really truly believe that you can get there, even if you think you're not 100% sure about yourself, because if you believe it in yourself, Intel Inside, the
two of you are going to have fun. Keep going.
With all that you have inside of you, the universe will conspire to give it to you, right? The famous saying, right? Because believing and having courage and confidence in yourself is one of the things, and like you said, ask for it, right? So this is one of the things that a lot of close friends, mentors, and advocates have told me that, right? Believe in yourself because you are good. You have worked very hard to get where you do, and you just have to speak up and believe in yourself. So that's the advice people gave me. What do I want to tell others is really build, especially, I don't want to say women, but anybody, but especially women, because we are sort of outnumbered in this field, is build yourself a support system, right? And that support system is not just at work or not just in your own team, or, it could be, in fact, having dinner with these ladies, I felt so, as though I've known them for a long time, right? Because that camaraderie, the problems that you have, even though we work in different companies, experiences we have gone through. So build yourself a support system. When I joined, I was in graduate school, I had a kid, and then as soon as I joined Intel, a couple of years later, my second kid was born. So I was like, work, eat my lunch at my desk, go home, right? Don't be like that, okay? That's so network. And people are in general are good people, right? And even people you think don't want to give you opportunities or, are not open to, having women or whatever, right? Actually, if you go talk to them, you'll find out they're actually very nice people. So have an open mind, build yourself a support system, ask for help when you need to ask for help. And, or when you're having a crappy day, you need somebody to tell you you're good, right? Have a friend, call them and tell them, they'll say, what was the term you used? Badass?
Badass.
I can call Dana anytime, right?
Yeah, I'll be like, you're a badass. How many patents do you have? Let's remind people.
So you need that pep talk to bring you up because so build yourself a support system. That's what I will say. At home, at work, and everywhere, right? And you will succeed. You will be successful.
So I think I'm going to go super tactical. Yes, all the things. And then when you are at an interview and you're kind of going through that negotiation about salary, don't put out the first number. Don't put out the first number. No matter how awkward. I had one of the most awkward conversations. Oh gosh, it was terrible. Like, so, how much are you expecting for this position? And I don't know, how much are you going to be allocating for it? And I mean, it just went back and forth. It was like a ping pong, but I was like, I stuck to it, and it was awkward, and there was silence, and I sweated, and then they offered me twice what I was making.
Oh, wow.
And so, I don't know that this is, hopefully, we can all hope towards equality, and we can hope that, this is in the future, that this won't be as much of an issue. But back in the day, that was one of the first things that I learned really early on that really changed the trajectory of my path and how much money I would make. And, obviously money is not the end all be all, but when you find out that the person next to you is making 60% more, it does not feel good, and it's not worth it, and it's not fair, and you don't deserve it. So hopefully that works for somebody in here.
No, we're short on time. I'll go real fast. So like I said, the best piece of advice is don't be driven by fear. And then, this is going to sound cliche, and maybe we're blessed because we're in Portland, Oregon, and I do believe there's a little bit of that, but don't compromise on what you want. Don't. Be your true, authentic self. Don't go on an interview pretending you're somebody that you're not. Be you, because this is a relationship. When you go into business and you want to have a job, you're going to spend 40, 60% of your consciousness with that company, and you're going to have to put on these airs of not being who you. I've had a lot of advice you need to dress better, you need to not curse as much. I'm really holding it back for y'all that know me. And I never listen to that advice. I'll listen to it in blips. I'm like, I have this imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh gosh, business casual, no jeans. Well, high activity pants aren't jeans. Don't play those games. They don't count. So my advice is be you. Be you. Own that. I know it's easier said than done because we're all a bunch of weirdos, but be with the company and be with people that want to be with weirdos and value who you are as a person. It's easier said than done. And I think a lot of people compromise because they're driven by fear of having that salary, having that stability, having that 3% cost of living raise. But believe me, there's places out there that are going to need you and they're going to want you. And it's going to take us changing that tide. But, it all comes back to knowing what you want, advocating for what you want, and being your biggest cheerleader. I know it sounds silly, but nobody's going to do you better than you. So you have to do it. And the same can be said if you're already in a place of business. It's if you're not getting what you want, be real about it. Say, I'm not being fulfilled, and realize you don't have to stay there. It's not like the draft, right? You can leave, and you're smart enough. You're smart enough to go for it. And I think a lot of women are held back. I mean, I have imposter syndrome every day. I look at my title, I'm like, no shit. My family's like, you seriously? And I'm like, I know, right? But at the end of the day, I truly believe that I'm doing something special. I am good enough, smart enough, and doggone it, sometimes people like me. And you got to remember that too. Just remember that. And so my best piece of advice is, be you, own it, love it, and tell everybody else how awesome it is.
Yeah.
And I'm a badass. I'm a badass.
So I just want to end on a final note. There's this great, there's a quote that goes, you can't be what you don't see. And obviously that's only partially true because there was the first person to do everything. But I do think it holds true in that it really becomes a lot easier and a lot less intimidating if you see people like you doing the things that you want to do. So I'm really grateful to all four of you for being here and showing us that we can be all those things. And thank you so much for taking the time to share all of that with us. And obviously we can be what we see. Thanks so much. And thanks to all of you.